Well, good morning. Today we start a new month as March is here. This is also the month when the calendar says spring will arrive, although the calendar is about as reliable as the groundhog at predicting the end of winter in Upper Michigan. The Michigan legislature is in session this week with many unresolved issues, including the state budget still facing legislators. This morning we'll get an update on where things stand. It starts right now.
From TV6, this is The Ryan Report. Here's your host, Don Ryan.
Well, State Representative Greg Markkanen is serving his first term in the Michigan House of Representatives. Representative Markkanen represents all of the western Upper Peninsula in the 110th District, which includes Baraga, Gogebic, Houghton, Iron, Keweenaw, and Ontonagon counties, as well as Powell and Ishpeming townships in Marquette County. Representative Markkanen, welcome back to the Ryan Report.
Thank you, Don. Good to be here.
Nice to see you again. So you've got a year under your belt now. It was kind of a tough year in Lansing last year. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think I've gained in a lot of institutional knowledge, and of course I've built a lot of relationships that are going to help me negotiate my different committees. I have 5 committee assignments, and that keeps me busy as well. So it's been a learning experience this past year.
And it was kind of a contentious year between the legislature and the governor. Mm-hmm. That had to be a different experience for you.
It did. It was all about building relationships across the aisle. And of course, the governor had her plan, we had ours, and we're trying to find that happy medium.
It looks like this may be another year when bipartisanship may not be the order of the day.
Well, it might not be. There's some contention on both sides, but we want to do what's best for Michigan, and I want to do what's best for the 110th.
One of the issues that's always in the forefront is education. Mm-hmm. And I know you were a teacher for many years, and it's not just financing education. We're talking now more about how should we do education? How should we operate our schools, and who decides? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this whole subject?
Well, I'm blessed with serving on the Education Committee, and we have started an informal education caucus that meets after hours, and it's a bipartisan caucus, and we're trying to come up with ideas to develop more local control for our schools, innovative schools across Michigan, and of course promote CTE. I think we have so many truck driving jobs available, and welding jobs, and pipe fitting and electrician. We need to promote CTE because we have to stop cookie cutting education, or the education process, and give kids, high school students, well, all students, the opportunity to explore whatever career they might be interested in.
And it's kind of funny if you look back, we really want to go back to the way things might have been, because there was a time mm-hmm. when local control really meant something in schools, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The school boards knew their local school or their local communities. They knew their teachers. They knew what their children needed. And of course, we had shop classes, we had home economics classes, and students left high school with some life skills.
And we went all the way toward career prep, but now mm-hmm. we have moved back considerably, haven't we?
Considerably. There are school districts downstate, and I'm finding this out through the caucus, that start CTE classes as early as 6th grade. Really? And I would love to bring that up to the Upper Peninsula and the 110, because exploring career options in 6th grade gives kids or students an opportunity to start thinking about what they might like to do.
Is there a realistic chance that some of these changes can occur? I mean, is there bipartisan support?
Well, Don, I like to think so, because the first time in 100 years of Michigan legislature, we have more former teachers on the House floor than we do attorneys. So we have a golden opportunity here to, I think, do something important with education. And if we can get the governor's support, I think the sky's the limit. I think we have an opportunity that we need to take advantage of.
And financing is always an issue we mm-hmm. deal with every year. Do we need to do more for our schools?
Well, I think we need to separate school financing. We need to separate the transportation costs, the building maintenance costs from the per pupil cost, and really focus on the students and benefiting, giving the students every opportunity possible. We have school districts up here that, bus students 400,000 miles a school year, and that takes a lot of money out of the per pupil funding. We have buildings, we have, the 4 different seasons, heating costs. I think these costs all need to be separate from the per pupil cost.
There's a real concern now that we may be heading into a period where teachers are in short supply. Less people are going to school to be teachers.
Right.
What do we need to do to reverse that trend?
Well, I think we need to put more respect into the profession. I know as a teacher, I heard many times, oh, teachers have it made, but teachers, I don't know a teacher in my district that doesn't spend part of their summer getting continuing education credits and doing research and helping to improve their classroom skills. And oftentimes they pay for this out of their own pocket. It's disturbing when Michigan Tech has dropped their education program because there isn't students going into education. So we really need to, I think, put more respect into the profession.
You have a state-supported university and a community college in your district. Do we need to do more? There's been a new report that says Michigan is lagging behind other states in the Midwest in its support for higher education. What do you think about that?
Well, I think one of the high points was this past week, Gogebic Community College opened up a new welding center, and it's state-of-the-art welding center in Ironwood, and already I believe the next 3 or 4 classes are full. So we're trying to do whatever we can, and I think that money for that welding center came from the last legislative session. So we want to promote that. We also want to keep Michigan Tech healthy. We also want them to be fiscally responsible, and we also want to keep Finlandia University going strong. They play an important part in our community as well.
Okay. We'll talk about some other issues in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on today's Ryan Report after we take this 2-minute break. Again, our guest this morning is State Representative Greg Markkanen from the Western Upper Peninsula. Roads are still a big discussion in Lansing. The governor came up with a plan to use bonding to do this. Your idea, was it good or bad?
Well, we're getting close to paying off the debt from the previous couple administrations, and now the governor wants to bond $3.6 billion, which is just going to put Michigan back in debt. Roughly, there's about 110,000 miles of roads in Michigan, and this is only going to affect about 9,600 miles, most of it in southeast Michigan. So, it's hard not to believe that the governor isn't pandering to her support base in southeast Michigan, because none of that money is going to come up to the UP. I think there's going to be a little bit of money for the Cut River Bridge, which they're going to finish off, and a little bit of money up on I-75 towards Sault Ste. Marie, but the western UP and the central UP will see none of that money.
Are Republicans still going to look at this issue and perhaps come forward with some recommendations?
Well, we offered the governor almost $400 million more out of the original plan that was started in 2015. She said that wasn't enough. So we're still working on it. Everything's on the table. We're willing to sit down and negotiate. The governor, I heard now that the 45-cent gas tax is still on the table. The governor's administration still believes that might be an option. So, it's just not feasible.
Will financing these bonds have any negative effect on funds for local roads?
Well, it certainly will. I mean, it's going to reduce revenue sharing again in the future, and it's going to put our children's children in debt, and it's going to take money away from the counties and the townships that they would get normally. So it's not a good thing.
On the subject of roads, there's some pretty controversial legislation in Lansing that would more or less prevent local communities from having a voice in whether a gravel operation can open in their community. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I believe we need gravel, we need aggregate, we need it to do our job and fix the roads, and as long as it isn't in someone's backyard and it's on their own property. I have to take a better look at the bill. I'm not up to speed on that, but I believe that, we need this product, and we have to get it somewhere, so.
Okay. I know you're also been working on licensing rules for mechanics. In fact, you had some pretty strong bipartisan support.
We
What
did.
was that about?
It was wonderful. It was it got through the House unanimously. It is a bill to allow mechanics to go from 10,000 pound to 14,000 pound building or vehicle, so they won't need a separate certification. Right now, if a mechanic worked on a 14,000 pound vehicle, they would have to have a separate certification. My bill would allow them to move from 10 to 14,000.
And that really meant that in some cases mechanics couldn't work on just a basic pickup truck.
Exactly, yeah.
Weight, yeah.
Because trucks are getting heavier and heavier.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about this issue of whether or not you guys should be able to fly back and forth to Lansing.
Yeah.
Now that came up a short time back. Where does it stand and what's it all about?
Well, it's going through committee. I think it would save. We're not asking for a special flight. Many of the departments in Lansing, like MDOT and DHSS and the DNR, fly up to the UP every week, and these planes usually have 1 or 2 people in it. We're just asking to be able to take the seats that aren't being used, and we project that it would save a lot of money. My mileage check and every year, I bought a new vehicle right after I was elected, and I have almost 68,000 miles on it. And so, and the weather, of course, is, it's very difficult sometimes. Last winter, I had one trip where M28 was closed, Highway 2 was closed. It took me 10.5 hours to get to Lansing. It's very difficult. So, but, the other side, it's a partisan issue, and the other side feels that we're getting some type of special privilege by flying, and I think if we can save the state money, that we should be able to.
So let's talk about the state budget for a minute. Is it going to be a big issue again this year?
It is.
Okay.
It is. With the road funding, we want to cut a little bit of fat on some of the departments. We want to increase revenue sharing where we can, and with the governor taking the state back into debt again, that's going to affect future revenue sharing. We're looking at education budget. We have increased education. We want to support the local townships and counties. The governor has a different idea, so we have to find that happy medium and work across the aisle.
And of course, last year it went well past the deadline, and
It did.
in fact, some stuff came right over into this year as well. Are
It did.
we likely to see an agreement before the start of a new fiscal year?
Well, we're working to get a supplemental now. Myself and Senator McBroom are working on trying to get money for Gogebic County for the Michigan Works pension project. We would like to help Houghton County and Baraga County and the communities up there that suffered from the flood almost 2 years ago now. They need some matching funds to get the rest of the FEMA money. So hopefully we can get a supplemental budget and get that in there.
Okay. We'll talk about some more issues in just a couple of minutes. Back with more on today's show after we take this break. Talking this morning with State Representative Greg Markkanen. One of the issues we hear a lot about these days is mental health. And what are we doing? What should we be doing? Where do you feel we should be heading?
Well, Senator McBroom and I have been going around the western UP, and I know the senator is going across the whole UP because he has 12 or 13 of the counties. But we're trying to have these open houses or listening groups and go across and get particularly focus on the needs of the people. Gogebic County has real issues, the western UP. We need mental health facilities, care providers. We've looked at a lot of the different options, maybe getting some reciprocity with northern Wisconsin, looking at going over to Minnesota. Duluth is only 90 miles away from Ironwood. One of the big issues with mental health is transportation. Transporting patients downstate, whether they're voluntary or involuntary, takes up, a lot of law enforcement's time. And hopefully we can get some developments in that too and save some of these local sheriffs and police departments some money. But there's a real need for mental health professionals in the Upper Peninsula. And, everything's on the table here as far as recruiting some.
And speaking of sheriffs and things, we are putting people in jail who probably should be in some different type of institution, aren't we?
Right. And I think a very strong argument could be made that we could use more beds in the Upper Peninsula. I believe we had 20 at the War Memorial in Sault Ste. Marie, but that only serves the Eastern UP, and we need something in the Central and Western UP. I know Marquette General used to have psychiatric beds, and they don't anymore. So we really need facilities, we need care providers, and we need people on the ground.
How are we going to make that happen? What do we have to do?
There has been a talk of offering scholarships. There's some optimism now with Marquette, or the UP health systems here, bringing medical doctor residents coming up, psychiatric residents, spending 2 years up here and getting, their loans paid off. And hopefully that program will be ongoing and expand as well. So, that might be a feeder program as well. I think it's just a matter of looking for people who want an outdoor lifestyle, who want to live in rural communities and really make a difference. And they can here in the Upper Peninsula.
One issue we're always dealing with in the UP is jobs and economic development. How are we doing?
Well, I think we're doing better. I mean, we get the paper from every one of our communities throughout our district. And, I look at the Ironwood paper, and there's a full page of want ads for jobs. There's employment out there. I think what we're suffering from in some areas of the UP, especially in my district, is people could be undereducated. They might not have the skills necessary. We need to offer them the job training that they need to pick up these jobs. And like the foundry and Ironwood is a good example. Wapaka Foundry, I think they employ 60 or 70 people now, came up from Wisconsin because they want the work ethic that we have here in the UP.
Is there anything happening with the proposed copper mining in your district?
Well, copper. If the price of copper went up over 3 and stayed there, I think we would see some mining start with Highland Copper and Gogebic and Ontonagon County. We're open. I think they have all the permits in place, or close to having all the permits. They just need the price of copper to go up.
We haven't heard much lately about Enbridge Line 5. It's kind of quieted down. And
it is.
Does it appear we're heading toward the tunnel solution?
Well, I did notice that TV6 is going to be doing a special this week. Enbridge is a good company. We've met with them many times. They're straightforward and honest. They look you right in the eye. And I think what I like about the project the most, besides protecting the line, is the fact that they're going to be using Michigan labor.
Okay.
It's going to put the people to work up here. These are good paying jobs, 2 to 3 million man hours to complete this project, and it's going to make Line 5 safe.
We're about out of time. Have you decided yet about running for re-election?
Well, I'd like to run for re-election, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll probably be hearing more from you in the future.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don.
Okay, I'll have some other thoughts for you in just a couple of minutes. Well, it's pretty clear that technology is taking over our world. We continue to hear about robots replacing humans in manufacturing, artificial intelligence, self-driving cars, and of course the telephones we carry around in our pockets have become so much more than just a phone. Even stodgy Major League Baseball, which through the years has been pretty slow to change, is experimenting with using new technology to call balls and strikes for the umpire. Now, young people today may think these new advances are something that just happened in their generation, but we were also witnesses to life-changing advancements when we were young. Today we marvel at the changes that have occurred with the modern cell phone, but some of us were witnesses to the introduction of the first dial telephone. It doesn't rival the personal computer for its impact on life, but it was a major change from an operator saying, "Number, please." And of course, if you're my age, you were around to watch the introduction, at least in Upper Michigan, of the greatest new technology of all, television. I realize I'm prejudiced because without TV I couldn't be talking to you right now. But few things in our history have had the impact television has had. We also had the opportunity to see it advance from black and white to living color, which really enhanced television viewing. And we also saw the transition from music on records to music on tape. It started with reel-to-reel tapes, which weren't very practical for everyday use, but the 8-track tape provided the first real opportunity for anyone to use this new media. Not exactly rocket science, and it's long since disappeared from public use. But it opened up new opportunities for listening to music. And how about the microwave oven? It dramatically changed cooking, or at least heating food. Some experimental models were developed in the 1940s, but it wasn't until the 1960s that it became a new addition to everyone's kitchen. And where would we be with the modern TV dinners without the opportunity to heat them quickly in the microwave? We could go on and list many other examples. The introduction of penicillin, the electric typewriter, the widespread use of automatic transmission in cars, and more. The fact is, every generation has witnessed new and exciting things that changed life as we know it. The invention of the light bulb so we could see in the dark, or the airplane so man could actually fly. And how about indoor plumbing so that man could, well, you get the idea. What's around the next corner? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But we'll probably be surprised when it gets here. I'll be back in a minute. Well, that's our report for this morning. Remember, it will be available at uppermichigansource.com starting tomorrow afternoon. Thanks to Representative Markkanen for being here today to bring us an update on some of the developments in Lansing. Before we go, a reminder that the time change is coming up next Sunday. Remember to move your clock ahead 1 hour on Saturday night, or you might miss next week's show. Thanks for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you again next Sunday morning.